So obviously very busy with a newborn and everything. But how has the pandemic been on you and the family?
So it's been really tough on me, especially at first because I had a boxing match lined up for April. So I had just came off of one in February. I was starting to get back into camp and everything, and then everything got shut down. So my job got shut down. I wasn't able to work. Um, I couldn't train. I and it kind of messed with me mentally because being stuck in the house for so long, there's only so much stuff you can do at the house.
Yeah.
Working out, and I just kind of got bored. Got complacent. So it's been really tough on me. Um, but everything has started turning back around this time, like probably for the past couple of months.
I think it's different for people who have been athletes their entire lives. Like I was athletic growing up, but as the years go by, I slowly start decreasing that. But as someone who's competitive and always has been, just being like, all right, no gym, all of a sudden,
Yeah,
it's probably hard to get used to that. Waking up in the morning and not having a reason to go to the gym, not having a reason to do
yeah,
anything. So it probably had to feel a little bit weird.
yeah. It did. So I've been competing in sports since I was 7. So I'm 23 now. So over half of my life, all I've done is just train. I would go from one season to another, then go back in the season, and even when it was my off season, which was like basketball time, before I started doing the wrestling stuff in middle school and in high school, it it just like I would be training with my dad, from because this is what I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be a pro athlete. Just thought I was gonna be a little bit bigger. And living in Alabama, we all have the dreams of playing college football and going to the pros. So that was that was my thing. That's what I wanted to get ready for. And then, you know, till I got to where I was about 10 or 11 when I started realizing that I wasn't gonna hit a growth spurt like everybody else.
It's funny how you say that. It's like so many people have so many like different goals in life, and it's funny how size is just
Yeah,
genetically I'm not a Gronkowski. I'm never gonna be 6'5", 280. Like it's just not gonna happen.
yeah.
That being said, how when did the idea of what I'm gonna be a mixed martial artist come around? Was that right after you finished wrestling, or when did you start floating that idea?
So let's see, I was 10 or 11, and Tim Silva came and fought against Ray Mercer in Birmingham, Alabama, and I think I had either just finished my first season of wrestling, or it was a year right before I was going in to start wrestling. But I seen Ray Mercer knock him out, and that was probably like the coolest thing I ever seen in my life. Especially just like the size difference as far as height. Seeing somebody shorter go and just chop somebody down like a tree. That was probably the coolest thing I ever seen in my life. So I knew from that moment that's what I wanted to do. Um, I always thought that I would wrestle, go to college and wrestle, and then go into MMA and everything. But I wrestled, won state championship my senior year, went to college. That didn't really work out as far as the money part because you know college wrestling programs don't have the money to just give out full scholarships to everybody.
Yeah.
They have a limited amount of scholarships they can give. So that was a big decision on me coming back home after I wrestled a few matches and everything. I did pretty good. Only people I lost to, they were ranked in the country, and it was close matches. But I just financially couldn't do it anymore. So I came back home, and I messaged my friend Seth, and I was like, "Hey, I want to start fighting." Um, and I had already wanted to do it. Then I started fighting, and like a few months later, I only trained for like 2 months before I had my first fight when I was 19. Um, then everything else just kind of started to fall into place.
One of the John Jones was very similar. I think he was in the UFC like 8 months after he started training, and it's crazy how much a wrestling background can go, and how it gives you such an advantage. That being said, what was the hardest thing to pick up? Like when you started, learning the stand up, learning the jiu-jitsu, which element was the most difficult for you?
My biggest difficulty, guard passing. I sucked at it, and like I'm used to if I'm like a guard for me as a wrestler, like I'm pinning you. Like I'm used to being in that situation. Like people hate being on that, so they'll turn and give you their back in wrestling. But jiu-jitsu was probably the hardest thing for me to learn. It took me a lot of time to really start picking it up because I went into just straight MMA training. Like we train submissions, a few submissions. You learn the basic guard passes and everything, and just submission defense. But everything I did was just for fighting purposes. It wasn't like I didn't until last year. I didn't go to a jiu-jitsu gym. You know, um, it was just my MMA gym. So we basically just kind of did everything off of what I already knew. If I wanted to get past somebody's guard, I just didn't land in it when I took them down. That was my first year of fighting.
Yeah, like I started just straight into jiu-jitsu. So for me, it was a clean slate. I couldn't imagine having like, knowing how to do it one way and then being like, no, that's the wrestling way to do it. This is actually how you do it for jiu-jitsu. It's like trying to like rework everything that and trying to adapt to a whole new style. It'd be very, very odd. One of the things I did notice about your career was usually when guys start getting into the sport, they're like, you know what, I'm just going to go fight on the regional scene, beat on guys with like a 1-65 record, like, and just try to like just get 4 or 5 wins under their belt against nobodies essentially.
Yeah.
You jumped right into it, like king of the cage right away. What was the reason behind that? Was it just that they're the only organization that was interested, or what was it?
So when I did my amateur stuff, I went and I competed in their competition, like their world championship thing, right, where they give out a contract. Um, I got the $100,000 contract and everything, and I was like, well, I could go and fight regional and fight against nobodies for $600, or I can make 2 G's for my first fight. This is a no brainer. Like this is what I'm doing. And I've always and that was like I fought 3 more amateur fights than I even planned on fighting. Once I got to where I was like 5-1 or 4-1, I was ready to go pro. I had actually announced that I was gonna go pro like before I had even had those other fights, but the money wasn't there, and I didn't want to fight on a card and make $600. Um, it it meant more to me to build up my value before I jumped into being a pro. And when I jumped in, I knew I was ready. I feel like if I go and I train, um, there's not many people that can beat me, especially in MMA. I can get outboxed in just strictly boxing, or I can get beat in kickboxing or in jiu-jitsu. But when it's MMA, when I get to do everything and there's so many different options for me, um, I feel like I'm one of the best fighters in the country, best fighters in the world. So I didn't feel like I still haven't felt like the competition level was there. Even if even when I have been fighting guys that were higher level than what a normal 4-0 fighter would have had. It just coming from wrestling, I felt like wrestling it's way tougher than MMA for me.
One of the things I did notice though is that you stay active in other disciplines as well. So like you said like, I might be able to get outboxed, but not in MMA. Like if I were to fight the same guy in MMA, and you proved that. I mean, you beat a guy in MMA that you had previously lost to in was it boxing or kickboxing? I don't remember.
Kickboxing, yeah.
So describe what it was like to kind of lose to him in kickboxing and then transition to MMA and finish him. Like, did it feel extra special?
So that was like one of the most meaningful fights for me that I've ever had, just on a personal level. Um, I still don't like the guy. Like that's just I. There's very few people there's only one person that I dislike that I've ever fought. I have pretty decent relationships with everybody that I fought. I respect them, and I respect him too. But we had a kickboxing fight. He started talking. I'm not much of a talker as far as if we if I say something about somebody, I really mean it. I'm not trying to hype up a fight. Um, so he said he was gonna knock me out, and we went, and we were doing this fight, and he just ran the whole time, and I was so pissed off in the kickboxing that I did a flying knee and jumped ended up like 6 feet in the air or something because I went up over top of him, and I just fought really crazy in that fight, and I still feel like I won. There was actually controversy
Yeah,
during the
it's very, very close.
yeah, it was very like a lot of people thought that I won that fight, and they actually announced me as the winner, but then they went back and changed it after they raised my hand and everything. Um, so he kind of had like that false confidence that he was just a better fighter than me until we went into the MMA world, and then went to sleep and never seen anybody go stiff from getting put in a choke, but I guess that was the first time for everything. That was well deserved.
It was man, it was a fun fight. Just right there at the buzzer too. Not a whole lot of time
Yeah,
left.
yeah. I actually I'm grateful that there was a time right there because I don't think the referee noticed. I noticed that he was out. I actually moved his legs over and everything, but I did as much as I dislike him. Um, I wouldn't want him to be permanently messed up from a fight. So I'm glad that it didn't have to go another 10 seconds for them to notice, because he was out for a couple of minutes even after, I put him out. So it was super satisfying though. I loved
That was your last fight. That was almost a year ago now. Does it
it.
feel a
Yeah.
bit? Does this layoff like has it helped you mentally, or are you just dying to get back in there?
Um, it's I'm since I had my first few amateur fights when then I got, where amateurs don't want to fight me.
Yeah.
Um, then I had to have like I would have 6 months between a fight. For my last year of me being an amateur, I had a fight in March and then I had one in December or something like that. So it was like I'm used to long layoffs, but that's why I've started doing the kickboxing and boxing to kind of kind of keep me more active. As far as MMA, I can jump back in it pretty easy. I just have to be in the right training camp for it.
One of the things I noticed, and you talked about it earlier based on your size, is that you bounce around a little bit. It's like you fight at 135, fight at 140, 145. Where is
Yeah.
your home? Where do you feel the most comfortable?
Um. Honestly, it's gonna sound like weird, but like I honestly don't. As long as I'm not fighting against a 55er that cuts from like 80 something, I don't really care. Because I feel like yes, size is a big thing in combat sports, but if I'm smarter than that person and I know how to work around it, I just see it as a challenge that I can get around. Um, because typically guys that are a little bit bigger than me, they're on as fast. And I have a lot of strength in my body to be the size that I am. So I can get up to let's see during quarantine and with all this we got back from the hospital last Wednesday, and I was 172. So, I mean, I can get up if I need to. I can get back down. Um, I think that 35 is going to be where I, try to make my run at my first run. But I could see myself going up to 45 and possibly later in my career at 55. I just have to build my body for that weight class.
Yeah, you're still really young in the sport, 23 years of age. This is going to sound more like an interview question, but
Yeah.
where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you see yourself UFC, Bellator, competing worldwide? What is the ultimate goal?
Wherever the money is, man. But I would love to be in the UFC. That's the most notoriety, and whenever people talk to me, they're like, you fight UFC. Nobody says you fight Bellator. You fight ONE FC.
Yeah.
I respect those organizations, and I know that they have a lot of guys that could compete in the UFC and stuff. But um, just for everybody around me, I think they want to see me in the UFC. So that's what I wanna make everybody in the South proud, and especially in Birmingham, Alabama, is proud. And I think that's where they want to see me at. So that's where I want to be.
There's a lot of doors right now open for that, with things like the Contender Series and all these other events. Have you considered something like that, like the Contender Series, or what's the other one, the big one that Rampage Jackson coached? What's it
Um,
called? The Ultimate Fighter. The
yeah.
Ultimate. Have you
So
considered something like that?
I have, it's something that like me and my coach and my manager and stuff we talk about, but I just don't. I'm not trying to rush it. I'm young, and I'm not gonna be one of those guys that gets in, off a great performance in the Contender Series and then gets cut. Once I get in, I'm gonna be in, and I'm not getting cut, or I'm only leaving when I feel like leaving. Um, because I feel like if I can go and I can still fight, even if it's like tough guys out on what would be kind of the regional circuit. Um, that just builds me for when I get into the UFC or Bellator. Just to make a title run. I want to get in and stay in, and then want to be a champ for a long time. So, you know, if that opportunity presents itself, then I'll be more than happy to take it if I feel that I'm ready for that. I'm not looking at the being ready for the Contender Series fight. I'm looking at being ready to be in the UFC with the best fighters in the world. Um, those are the only people that I feel like can give me competition.
As someone who's both wrestled at a pretty high level and now competed in MMA, I want to talk about guys like Henry Cejudo and Daniel Cormier. I'm 100% MMA. I never wrestled. I never thought any of that. I never even followed it. I've only ever followed MMA. So for me, their legacy doesn't mean as much, and their accolades don't mean as much as
Yeah.
someone who's maybe done both. So as a wrestler who's now transitioned into MMA, like how much how impressive is Henry Cejudo's gold medal and double champ status?
Um, that's probably I think he's the greatest combat sports athlete of all time. And it's because winning a gold medal in wrestling, there's a lot that goes into it, and he won it at a young age. Um, it's not like he went through 3 or 4 different cycles and then he finally won one. He went in, he won it, and then he accomplished his goal. Um, and then he transitioned into MMA. Even though he had a tough little go as far as weight cutting at first, um, he really transformed himself. Looking at him, you wouldn't really be able to tell that. You can't ever say that he was just a wrestler.
Yeah.
You watch him fight and see how he's evolved. How he's head kicking people that are supposed to be like the best strikers in the world, and knocking them out. And um, I think that that's one of the most impressive things in the world. That would be, I think that it's kind of like if somebody goes and they go and compete in jiu-jitsu and win ADCC or something like that. Um, I think that's the same level. Um, I think it's close. But as far as winning that Olympic gold medal, I think the Olympics hold so much weight as
Yeah.
far as just as a culture thing and as a world thing that it's kind of hard to, just dismiss that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and they're like, "Yeah, there's essentially the same sport," and I'm like, "No, it's not. It's literally like winning speed skating and then winning a gold medal in hockey. Like it's two
yeah,
completely different sports. Yeah, they're both on skates, but like not the same thing
yeah,
at all." And
definitely.
yeah, I think it just shows how great their legacies are, both Cejudo's and DC's. Cejudo obviously has the gold medal though, but absolutely crazy athletes. I want to end on a on the MMA note, I guess,
Alright.
as a new father, less than a week old now, it's
Yeah.
crazy to think about. If your daughter comes to you in 5, 6, 7 years and says, "I want to be a wrestler," or "I want to fight," I know you probably haven't even had enough time to think about that, but is that something that you'd consider, or are you like a protective father that's like, no, 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 I
Um,
wrestled, I've gotten injured, I don't want that.
so, I actually want her to. I'm definitely like, as soon as she gets to where she's 3 or 4, she's gonna be in jujitsu. Just because, just the safety aspect of it and the confidence that it builds.
Yeah.
Um, Now, as far as the fighting aspect, I would love for her to want to do that. If that's what she wanted, then I'm gonna support her and make sure that she has all the resources that I didn't have growing up because I didn't know that I wanted to do that. But Alabama just approved girl wrestling, like female wrestling, and having their own division instead of just wrestling with the guys. So I think that the sport of female wrestling is growing right now in this country. Um, Alabama's just one of the latest in many of the other states that have started to really push that because some of my favorite wrestlers that I like to watch and that have some of the best technique in the world, they're the women wrestlers from the U.S. So I would love to see her do that if that's something that she wanted to do. But if she didn't want to, yeah, it'd be fine with me. I wouldn't be disappointed. Hopefully, I'll have a little boy. So, and then I would hope that he would I would hope that he would want to fight. But you know, it's whatever makes her happy.
Yeah, I know it's still early. It's only 6 days, so
I already I already have stuff planned. I already have plans to get the gi and get her some little gloves and everything. And I have plans. I'm just hoping that that's what she wants.
I love it, man. I like to see that. It's always nice when people are like, yeah, I want it for my daughter. As someone who wouldn't have been allowed as a kid, it's great to
Yeah.
it's great to see. My parents would have killed me. Um, I guess last question. Is there anyone you want to plug? Anybody you want to thank, or include your Twitter and Instagrams or anything below?
So let's see. I'm gonna start out with my job. I actually work at an axe throwing place. It's called Civil Axe Throwing. We're located all over the southeast. Um, so I want to start off with them. I would like to shout out my gym, Cobra Jiu Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. My coaches, Kurt and John. They've done a great job as far as just helping me in my career. Um, I would like to thank my management team, Maurice Blanco and Vice Sports Group. Um, I just signed with them within the past few months. They've been doing a great job as far as just making sure that I'm staying on task and getting me fight offers and everything like that. I would like to thank my shirt sponsors, Civilized and Savage Clothing. They do a great job as far as getting all my walkout stuff. Nick is like one of my favorite people. I got to meet him for the first time. I drove all the way to Atlanta just to meet him a couple years ago, and then we've been close ever since. And also my tattoo shop, Say Gold. Um, they're probably like those are like the closest people that I'm with like all the time. I'll just go into a tattoo shop and just chill. I love it. And then they get me neck tats and stuff, so that's pretty cool. Um, and that's about it. Let's see, my Twitter, it is the Protege MMA 135, and the same thing is my Instagram. So go and check me out. I also do music too, so hopefully people will go and check that out. I feel like I'm better than Tyron Woodley at rapping. Oh, I mean, I would do a song with him, but I would hope that he wouldn't mess the song up.
I love that. Yeah, there's a few guys. Brian Kelleher raps too.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a few guys who can do it all, both rap and fight.
yeah. Well, thank you for having me on today. It's probably, I love doing this, and I hope you have me back on, man.
Man, I will for sure. We'll have to have you back on. I appreciate it, man. I wanted to get a guy up and coming, really a good threat and someone who you can see in the UFC or Bellator, one of these other organizations soon. So I really appreciate you coming on, man, and all the best. Stay safe and good luck with your next fight.
All right, thank you. Talk to you later, man.